Welcome to Quick Movie Recaps. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and subscribe. The movie begins with Hendrik, his brother Eddie, and their mom, Sabine, who move from a big city to a remote town in South Austria. They are welcomed by Gerald Rockel. Gerald tells that the previous tenants have left all the furniture, so Sabine's family can use it. Hendrik finds a family's photo hanging on the wall. When he goes upstairs, he finds a closed attic door with a line of salt poured in front. Gerald tells him that the salt is for the slugs. Hendrik scares Eddie by telling him that some zombies live in the attic. Later, Eddie licks off some salt with his finger from the closed door's front. Then the door opens up and someone behind the door talks to Eddie. But Sabine calls Eddie, so he goes away. Later, Hendrik puts photos of his family and friends on his room's shelf and gets emotional as his father has died. Meanwhile, Sabine finds the owner's family photo hanging on the wall and replaces it with her own family photo. Soon, Hendrik sees the attic door open and closes it. At night, Hendrik sees Eddie standing in his room. He tries to ask him what he's doing, but Eddie goes away. Then Hendrik sees what Eddie has drawn on the wall. Next morning, Hendrik tells Sabine that Eddie was sleepwalking last night, and Sabine tells Hendrik and Eddie that they have to go with her to meet their neighbor. They go to their neighbor's house, and Sabine introduces herself and kids, but the old lady talks rudely to them. Before going to work, Sabine asks Hendrik to take Eddie to explore the village. On Eddie's request, Hendrik agrees to give him a cart ride, but suddenly Eddie runs to the graveyard, and Hendrik finds him standing near the graves of two brothers, Ralph and Roland Poltzmann. Meanwhile, Sabine's boss shows her the cave where she will work. While Eddie goes to play with other kids, Hendrik meets Fritz. Just then, Chris and his gang comes there and bullies Hendrik because he's German, but Hendrik goes away. On their way back, Fritz follows Hendrik and Eddie. Fritz asks him if they have seen the ghost of Amalia Poltzmann. Then he tells the story of Amalia Poltzmann, a psychopath who killed Ralph and Roland by putting poison in their food, and later, she committed suicide. While standing in the kitchen, Eddie sees a woman near the graves and tells Hendrik, but before Hendrik could see, she disappears. Later, Hendrik sees their old neighbor from earlier, pouring salt in front of her door. He searches about the Poltzmann family and finds out how Amalia Poltzmann killed her sons with mushroom poisoning. He talks about it with Sabine and tell her how people say that this house is haunted, but she thinks it's all nonsense as the incident happened many years ago. Later, Hendrik talks to Eddie to see if he's been seeing anything unusual lately and asks him why he drew on his room's wall. But Eddie says that he didn't draw anything and goes away. Soon, Sabine sees that someone has replaced her family photo with an old photo that was hanging there before. Meanwhile, Hendrik goes to Eddie's room and hides everything he can draw with. Later, Sabine comes to Eddie's room and finds their family photo under Eddie's bed. At night, Hendrik wakes up from a nightmare and again finds Eddie drawing something on the wall. Just when he tries to stop him, he gets scared to see Eddie, who's possessed by a ghost. Just then, Sabine comes there and takes Eddie away, thinking that he's sleepwalking again. Then, Hendrik reads the word "Gob" written on the wall. Next day, he tells Fritz about it and shows Eddie's last night video of saying something in Slovenian, but Fritz doesn't understand it, so Hendrik asks if someone can translate it. Fritz takes him to Ida, a girl who can speak Slovenian. He introduces Hendrik to Ida and tells her that they need her help. Ida tells them that it says, "Mama is innocent." They all figure out that the dead children are talking through Eddie, and if Amalia was innocent, then someone else killed them. Just then, Chris and his gang come. Chris punches Hendrik and goes away. Hendrik's nose starts to bleed, and when he reaches home, Sabine sees him. She runs upstairs to him. Meanwhile, Eddie hears someone calling out to him. Later, Hendrik tries to talk something out of Eddie, but fails. At night, he talks to Ida, and she tells him that "Goba" means mushrooms. Later that night, Hendrik goes to sleep with Eddie in his room. Next morning, Ida comes to meet Hendrik. He shows her his room and tells her how everything here is different for him. Soon they are joined by Fritz, who is keen on solving the Poltzmann brothers' murder case. They discuss why the ghosts wrote "Gob" on the wall, and how the mushrooms are related to their death. Hendrik questions why the ghosts don't tell them directly about the murderer, but Ida adds that maybe they don't know either. Fritz suggests doing a seance to talk to the ghosts. Soon, Roland Poltzmann's ghost possesses Eddie, and he takes them to closed attic. He points at a cupboard and repeats the word "Goba." Ida and Hendrik find a book hidden behind by the cupboard. Just then, Poland asks them to leave because Ralph's ghost is coming. As they all run downstairs, Fritz doesn't get to pick the Polaroid off the floor. After putting Eddie to rest, Hendrik talks to Ida and Fritz. They find a film reel inside the book. Fritz tells that he will bring the film projector from his home and goes away. Ida and Hendrik also find a small diary in the book. Just when they are about to kiss, the doorbell rings. Hendrik then finds Gerald Rockel at the door, who came to meet Sabine. Hendrik tries to send him away, but he gives a poison for the slugs to Hendrik. Soon Fritz returns, and they send Gerald away. Then they watch the film recorded by Ralph Polsman and read his diary along. They find out that their neighbor, Miss Silos, was the housekeeper at Polsman's. Mr. Polsman had also gifted a snail pendant to their housekeeper, while he haven't gave anything to his wife. They figure out that Mr. Polsman must have had an affair with Miss Silos, so he gave that snail pendant to her. When they don't find her at home, they secretly enter the house. Soon Miss Silos returns and they get caught. Miss Silos doesn't tell them anything except that she quit the job before the boys died. She also warns them that she will tell their parents if they ever do it again. On their way back, Hendrik and Ida gets into a fight and Ida goes away. When Hendrik returns home, he sees Ralph's ghost in the mirror. Next day, he goes to meet Ida and apologizes to her. After reconciling, Hendrik tells her about his dad's death. Ida asks him to be his date at the traditional costume festival. Just when they are about to kiss, Ida sees Ralph's face in Hendrik and gets scared. They both tell Fritz that they have seen Ralph's ghost. When Sabine goes to work, they plan to wait for Ralph to return at night. Later at night, Ralph possesses Hendrik's body and tries to attack Ida and Fritz. But Fritz makes a safety circle with salty chips, as salt protects you against ghosts. Ida asks Ralph's ghost what he wants, and he tells her that he wants revenge. He also repeats the words murderer and mother. Ida kisses Hendrik to bring him back to his senses. They talk about how Ralph wants revenge from the murderer who killed them. Also, that their mother, Amalia, is not the murderer as told by Roland. Next day, Hendrik and his family goes shopping for the costume festival. Sabine apologizes to Hendrik for bringing them here, as she couldn't afford the city life anymore. Hendrik tells her he loves her. On his way to the festival, Hendrik sees a car going to the graveyard. He follows the car and calls Fritz and Ida. He tells them that he has found the murderer with that snail pendant and he's gonna hide in the car. Fritz and Ida figure out that if Miss Silos stopped working for the Polsmans before the boys died, then they might have hired someone else as the housekeeper. They ask Miss Silos and she agrees. Meanwhile, Hendrik reaches the place and secretly enter inside the murderer's house. To his surprise, he finds some letters and an old woman who calls him Ralphie. When he runs out, he bumps into Gerald. Turns out that old woman is Gerald's mother. Hendrik runs away and meets Ida, who has come to find him. He tells her everything and that Gerald is Polsman's illegitimate child. Gerald follows Ida and Hendrik. Meanwhile, Sleepy Eddie starts to speak something in Slovenian. Sabine's boss tells her that Eddie's saying Hendrik is in danger. They run out to find Hendrik. Hendrik and Ida runs into a cave where Sabine works. They hide from Gerald at a dangerous spot and get slipped into a pit where Hendrik's leg gets stuck. When Gerald goes away, Hendrik expresses his feelings for Ida. Then he helps her get out of the place to get help. Meanwhile, Sabine and the police reach Gerald's house to arrest him. Soon, Ida reaches there, asking for help, and Sabine takes the rescue team to the cave. They bring out Hendrik safely. Just then, Eddie walks to Gerald's mother and speaks to her in Slovenian. He says that you killed us. Gerald's mother confesses that she only wanted to kill Amalia Polsman, but children died too. In the end, it is revealed that the case was reopened, as the perpetrator confessed killing Amalia Polsman and her kids. Hendrik gets to start fresh with his family and new friends. Do you believe in ghosts and haunted houses? Tell us in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.